So tonight I'm going to share with all of you how to do a waterfall. So let's take this camera down. Here we have waterfalls. Okay, and I'm not going to show you this one because it's just a little too basic. All right, and so the one thing I want to tell you first before I get started is a lot of times that I see people painting waterfalls, the first thing they do is they make this kind of humpy curve over the top, like the water jumps up and falls over. And so that's not what it does. If you ever watch a waterfall, it hits the edge of the ledge or whatever drop off, and then it just falls straight down. Okay, there's no curve, there's no curls in the water or anything like that. And so that's one thing I want to tell you is please try not to curve or curl your water. Okay, waterfalls. It's just that simple. Okay, so first thing I want to put out for this is floating medium, because I'm on my paper in my art journal here. And I'm going to paint some basic rock wall behind the waterfall. Excuse me. So I'm putting out some burnt umber, some coffee latte, a little bit. Don't need much of that. And maybe a little medium gray. Okay, some wicker white. Okay, and then I need some greens, and I'm going to add a blue, and I'll tell you a little more about the greens and blues and watercolors. Okay, so I put out some sap green, a little bit of citrus green, and a little bit of classic green all around the dial here. And then I'm going to put out a little bit of Prussian blue, just so you can kind of see the difference. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of colors here. So just to go back over and through this, I've got floating medium, burnt umber, coffee latte, medium gray, wicker white, sap green, citrus green, classic green, and Prussian blue. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is set the backdrop for my waterfall. So I'm on paper. I've sketched this out a little bit. I have a little rock that's sticking out in the middle of my waterfall to kind of show you how to do a splash against that rock and what happens when the water divides. Okay, so I've got lots of floating medium and burnt umber on my brush, and I'm going to come right here at the top of my waterfall. Okay, and let's come down further now so you can see a little better what's going on here. And I'm going to just wash down this wall with this brown. Now, whatever the color of the backdrop, it could be gray, it could be whatever the earth color is behind the water, okay? But it's not blue, all right? There's no blue in ground or earth tones. There's greens, there's grays, there's browns. Rarely is there blue. All right, and water that is blue is usually reflected because it's very clear, and that's the color of the rainbow that's being reflected in the water. All right, so that's the backdrop for my water. Now I'm going to come in with a little heavier brown and some coffee latte, and I'm going to add some rocks kind of jutting out into the water here, and then the rest of it's going to disappear off to the sides, okay, because we don't have time to do a whole big painting on this. Okay, so there's a rock, and we're going to do another rock right in here. Okay, and then that's all burnt umber, and then I can just come right here on the rock face and add a little bit of coffee latte. I might even touch into some white and give a little light color on top, and then we'll do another rock right in here. Light on top and dark on the sides. Okay. All right, and then over here, we're going to have a little bit lighter looking. These aren't necessarily all rocks. This could be green or brown, smaller bits. And this is, you know, a view of the waterfall. Where you're standing in relationship to the waterfall will tell you how much of the water you're going to see. So in the case of this one, let me finish this up here. We are down at the base of the waterfall, as you can tell, and we're looking up, which means we're not going to see the water coming over. So I'm not going to see water up here. I'm going to see sky. Okay? And you're not going to see the flat of the river or any of that because we're below the crest where it falls. All right? And so then I'm going to come in here and we're going to add some rocks right out here in the water. And then I've got this big guy up here at the top. Let me get a little bit of white on that top edge there, and the rest is going to be under the water as it falls down. Okay. So if you want to learn how to paint really good rocks, or rocks well, I should say, you take my landscape class, my workshops that are available on my website to download and take. All right, and I'm going to start to add a little bit of gray in here now and bring this forward. Right, rocks aren't always brown. They have some grays, there's some blacks, there's pinks, there's all kinds of stuff, right? Okay, so we've got kind of a rocky backdrop here happening, and then we have our water bank after it splashes down, and maybe it's a river, maybe it's a pool. I'm going to go with just this far, okay? All right, now I'm going to clean that brush. Okay, so I'm going to come in and add my greens first, and then we'll get to this waterfall-y thing. So I'm going to come in with some medium, and I'm going to get my classic green and citrus green on my brush, lots of medium. And we're going to create our trees and foliage that's in the background far away. First, I'm going to smash my brush and get some of that into the background here. You can even slip slap it like that if you prefer. It's very transparent the further away it is, okay? Not looking like much yet. Then I'm going to come and pick up some sap green and citrus. And I can come right in here and smash in some shrubs right at the top. I might even get a little bit of white here. Create some layers of different shrubs, etc. And they're going to come right over the wall. So maybe I just slip slap a little bit of the sap in here. This is the quickiest landscape you've ever seen. Okay, little bits of sap green in there, and then I might slap in some citrus right as it comes over the rock wall, and maybe there's a little sitting on some of these rocks. You might even have a few stalks or stems sticking up. Okay, and maybe we've got some over here too. They like the water. They come right up to the edge to get drinks. Okay, and then add a little bit of foliage up here on this side. Okay, you could have trees, you could have all kinds of things. The focus tonight is on the waterfall. Okay, so that's why I'm not spending too much time on the foliage part of it right here. Okay, now, I was talking about watercolor, all right? When water falls, it's white. It's very thin and transparent. The only color you might see would be in whatever the tannins are, and by tannins I mean whatever has naturally shown up in the water as it's run through its course, all right? If one doesn't have classic green, is there a similar color? Any green's fine, honey. It's for this. It's just a lighter shade of green, that's all. So you could do sap and white or sap and citrus blended. Any of that is fine. Okay, so really what water is a reflection. The color is a reflection of what is around it, typically. And in many cases, it might be brown, or it might be gray, or it might have some blue because of the sky. Okay, so the sky is going to be what you would reflect and see. So maybe if I put some Prussian blue in here, that would make sense. But that's too blue. Okay, so we want to come in with some green. All right, and a lot of medium. And I might come in with some white also. Let me blend that out a little bit. There we go. So it can have a bluish tint to it from the sky, but if there's a lot of greenery around it, or brown for that matter, then you might have a little bit of brown in the water, okay, right along the edges as it reflects the rocks, okay? So really that's what you're seeing at the base of the falls. And the falls themselves are going to be mostly white because it's the falling water, very little thin veil of water that isn't going to have a lot of color to reflect. So it's usually quite white, all right? But it's not bright white. It tends to be an off-white. So you can take the color that is in the water here at the base and thin that out like quite a bit. So what I would do here at this point is take what's left on my brush. I would wipe off my brush, and there's some green left on there, right? Because if I went to medium right now, look at the color that would come out of my brush is a little bit tinted green, maybe touching right there. Okay, so I'm primarily going to go for the white right here. So I'm going to pick up white, a little bit of white, work it in with that medium, and see it's not stark white now, it's tinted green. I don't know if that's coming through on the camera or not. Okay, so I'm going to come in here with the white right at the edge, okay, and it's straight down. So from my rock, straight down. And see, that's got that little bit of tint of green in it because of the green in my water reflection. Water reflects, or water carries tannins. Here in our area of Florida, there's so many tannins in the water. It's very, very dark brown. It's not like dirty brown, it's just that's the color of the water, okay? So I'm going straight up and down with this color. And as it comes down on the sides, it might not have as much volume or as much force, so it may get a little bit sparse there. It might even splash off these rocks, all right? But in the middle, it's going to come all the way to the bottom. So I'm just continuing to work with this color, and that white, or that water, is going to come around this rock and eventually fill in below it, but it's not going to come right in front of it. So I'm going to come right in through here where it starts to flow and then come straight down. Okay, so this is the underpainting for the water, and you can see that little bit of brown is showing through in the background, and there's that little tint of green. Okay, so that's the color of the water in this waterfall. Look at photographs, look at pictures of water, and you will see what I'm talking about, okay? All right, so this is not done though. So next what I want to do is I'm going to get my rake brush, my feather brush here, and we're going to add more white to this, and we're going to add some spotted areas where it's very white and parts where it's very transparent, and you're going to see more of this background color, okay? So I've got the wicker white here, full strength on my feather or rake brush, and I'm going to come again, now no curve, just fall straight down, all right, and pull that down, straight down. Okay, very little volume is going to be underneath that rock, so I'm going to leave it fairly thin, just like it is, all right, and then straight down. More white, right from the edge. Okay, so now you're kind of getting a feel for how to get the look of that waterfall. And you leave some area thin and you leave some heavy white, okay? No curves. It doesn't curve over here and hit a rock. It goes straight down, okay? So that's our basic waterfall, all right? And at this point then you could come in and add more greenery flowing in front of it, and all that kind of stuff. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how to get that splash. So I need my medium scruffy. There it is. All right, so my medium scruffy, I'm going to come right in here and I'm going to get medium on the medium scruffy, right? And a little bit of white, and then I'm going to mix that together on 1/2 of my scruffy. Very, very thin. See that? Very thin. All right, and so right here at the splash, where it hits the pool surface, I'm then going to pounce this thin water spray. Okay, so it's very thin and it sprays up. It doesn't spray necessarily out so much. It might go this way and that way, but it mostly sprays back up. It doesn't spray forward. We're going to put more in there that sprays forward. Okay. And then the other thing I want to do is right here where it's hitting this rock, I'm going to put a little bit of spray right there. There we go. Very little so that you get those little points of color and not a full saturation of a whole bunch of paint. Okay, so just a little bit of spray. All right, so now I'm going to come and get heavy white. Heavy white on one edge of my scruffy. See that? You could use a small scruffy too, really. It doesn't matter. All right, and then I'm going to pounce right in here. But I'm not going to go up as high as that spray I just did. You're just creating a little more turmoil down here where it hits the water and splashes up. Like that. Okay, so can you see it's very thin right here? And then you have the heavy right in the middle, and then it's very thin up at the top again. And I might put a little bit of heavy right there, but not much. Okay. Now, the last thing, so that's the waterfall right there. I mean, if you wanted to get more specific, and this is impressionist looking, all right? Now I could come in here with my 8 flat, and I can add a few more bits of greenery, right? Coming out over the water. All right, maybe a little bit here, coming up there, and then on the sides, I can pull up some stems, maybe some flowers. There's lots you can do on that water's edge. Now that those rocks and things have dried, you can add pounce a little bit of moss there. Okay, all kinds of things just to give a feel for things growing around this pool of water. And it's really nice if you have some of them that fall over, lean over into the water. Little bits of white or lighter green to have them show up a little better. Okay, now I'm going to get that off of that brush, and then what I want to do now is create the ripples in the water. So I've got this 8 flat. I'm going to load some medium on that, and I'm going to side stroke a little bit of white, just a little bit, and I want to work that in so that it's transparent. All right, and what we're going to do with this is I'm going to come right up next to this rock. Can you see there? Right up next to that rock where the water is going to hit it and come around. So my white is to the right side, and I can pull a little bit out away from the edge of that rock. Maybe a little bit more white. There we go. And then come around. And then on this side you can do the same thing. Don't bring it around the front. It's on the side. All right, where the water is working its way around the sides of the rock. All right, and then maybe you have a little bit of highlight there. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the water itself, and we're going to, from this where it's spraying and splashing, it's going to create ripples that come out in a ring this way. So you're going to come across with the whites to the left side here as you come across the front. All right, make sure it's thin and it sputters a little bit. You don't need an exact full white ridge, just spots of it where the light hits it and where the light doesn't. One of my pet peeves is where we over highlight every single edge on something and it doesn't look natural. Okay, so then add another ring, little bits of white. All right, so you get the idea. We're coming around. I think my white's a little thin. There we go. We're coming around and creating these little rings of movement in the water. Okay, and you can even come up next to the water's edge now with some thinned medium and burnt umber, and kind of set that edge of the water. Okay, with that shaded brown, like that and that. Okay, so that brown looks under the water. Okay, now you're seeing green through there, you're seeing little bits of green through there, and you might even see just a little bit of the rock wall coming down with this brown in my brush, coming down underneath this rock now, where it's very thin. Oops, there you go. I came right up under here and pulled down some very thin brown underneath there. Okay, and then if you want to, you could even do a little bit of a shadow underneath this rock, right where it's a little bit darker under there. Okay, all right, so now if we back away, we've got this wonderful, now the only thing that we're missing is sky. All right, and so you can add that. You could have done that in the beginning, and like I said, the focal point of this was the waterfall, not necessarily all the other stuff behind it. But if I came in here with some medium on my 16 and got a little Prussian blue and a little bit of white, just a nice pale blue sky to set back in here. All right, or you can have more trees. Let's say it's maybe you're in the jungle and it's coming through the trees with some light, and the trees are in the distance. All right, you can put that in there. Okay, so you're just creating some sky, and then you could come back in with your greenery and add a little more of that, a little more of this, a little more of that. All right, and you may even have a little bit coming hanging down, right? So lots of waterfalls out there, lots of ones to get for examples, pictures and things, places you've been. Okay. A little bit of hanging out there. All right, so thank you, Julie, for your suggestion, and I hope you enjoyed your waterfall demonstration. Can't wait to see what you do with it and how it turns out for you. And like I said, if you want to learn more about how to do these types of landscapes, very quick and easy pieces of landscapes, rocks, waterfalls, sky, water, sea, there's lots. I have 3 different workshops on landscapes on my website that are available right now for purchase to download and learn. They're workshops, okay?